All right, it took a government shutdown, but Americans have now been awakened to SNAP and the rampant fraud that is in America's food stamp program, a program that I said, nobody really paid attention to that much until we shut down the government for almost 43 days. The food stamp program has 42 million people enrolled in it. 13% of this country is getting free food. You're buying breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 13% of the country. How sad is that? It costs taxpayers $100 billion a year. The Secretary of Agriculture, Rollins, has revealed that 5,000 dead people are receiving SNAP benefits, which really means that their kids are just taking the SNAP benefits from the dead grandparents in most cases. And at least 500,000 are getting SNAP twice under the same name. And this is just what's been confirmed, we assume, since they started looking at this when the media started talking about it when the government shut down. On top of this, about 80% of the recipients of SNAP, we understand, are able-bodied Americans, meaning they can work, they don't have small kids, or are taking care of an elderly parent. They choose not to work because they're getting significant benefits, not just SNAP, all sorts of health care benefits and free place to live, all sorts of things in this country, a lot of goodies. And then you get down to the state level, it gets even better. The Ag Secretary, Rollins, joins us now to talk more about the numbers. And it's good to see you again, Madam Secretary. Was what we found out so far, I assume, is just the beginnings of an investigation into these programs, right?
Well, yeah, let me slightly adjust, and I've got actually big news for you, Rob. First, on day one when I was sworn in, which was earlier this year in February, the very first thing I did was send letters to every single state in America and said, never before has the federal government asked for the data, but it is a new day. President Trump is the president. We know there's a lot of fraud. We need to help partner with you all to figure out how to make sure that this money and these benefits go to those who truly need it and not rife with fraud and corruption. 29 states, mostly the red states, responded with their data sets February, March, April. So the numbers that you're talking through, those are numbers that we have been collecting and analyzing since early summer, late spring. Okay. The fact that this spotlight shined on SNAP has allowed us to talk about it. But here's the most unbelievable news I have really just over the last few days, that 5,000 dead people, that was just 1 month. The number is closer to 186,000 deceased men and women and children in this country are receiving a check. Now, that is what we're really going to start clamping down on. 500,000 are getting 2. But here's the really stunning thing. This is just data from those 29 mostly red states. Can you imagine when we get our hands on the blue state data, what we're going to find? It's going to give us a platform and a trajectory to fundamentally rebuild this program, have everyone reapply for their benefit, make sure that everyone that's taking a taxpayer-funded benefit through SNAP or food stamps, that they literally are vulnerable and they can't survive without it. And that's the next step here.
So you're telling me that 500,000 people are getting 2 checks. And let me start with, are those checks being cashed? And then as far as the dead people, are those checks being cashed? Or are they just being sent out and the money comes back?
No, the way that the program works, they're through the EBT cards, electronic benefit. So the checks don't really move. Instead, every state government has, we give the states the money, the states administer the program, which is why every state is so different, and the states then flow the money into those cards. So it is those cards that are full that either the person's dead or they're getting it twice. We found one guy in 6 states, the same guy, the same Social Security number, getting the same benefit in 6 different states and 6 different EBT cards. So these are the things that we're uncovering that for years no one's really ever dug into because the feds didn't have the system in place to do it, but we do now. The president has made this a priority. We will fix this program.
Does anybody that's doing fraudulent things they should be removed from the program at a minimum? Off. You're done. You can't get back on. Are the charges that are going to be filed? It sounds like we have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people committing fraud against the U.S. government.
That's right. In just the last few months, we've arrested about 120 Americans committing fraud on the system. One ring was up in the Northeast, I believe it was New Jersey, where it was about a $60 million SNAP fraud ring. You actually have some of the cartels, the criminal cartels, who have figured out, not necessarily from Mexico, but from around the world, that have figured out how to infiltrate into the system, into the certain state systems that are out there. And we are actively, with the DOJ, with a lot of the other investigation units around the country, already arresting. There's a lot of people already sitting in jail, but I think we're just at the very tip of the iceberg and what we're going to find.
And you're saying, and I just want to show an example here really quick. There was a Somali restaurant in Minnesota that was found guilty of a $250 million fraud scheme that exploited federally funded child nutrition programs. They claimed they were taking in $12 million in child meal payments. They said they were feeding around 4,000 to 6,000 kids a day, but it was really only 40 people during 6 weeks. But they brought in $12 million to feed 40 people. You had a grocery store in Chicago stealing over $8 million in SNAP benefits. There is rampant fraud in this. People want to know why big government doesn't work and why these big, huge programs that the government wants to fund don't work. This is exactly it. And you're saying that the blue states are not letting you even see their data. So I would imagine that the numbers that you just gave us, about 500,000 getting 2 instead of 1, is going to be dramatically higher.
I think it's going to be dramatically higher. And Rob, when you marry that to the fact that under the Biden administration, he increased SNAP funding by 40%. Of course, this was 21, 22, 23. I think they were trying to buy an election, trying to put more people, into government programs. And so you see this sort of snowball that has really spun completely out of control. And again, we were working on this. We've been working on this since February. But I think the Democrats' unintended consequence of their craziness in voting 15 different times to keep the government closed, to not fund SNAP, to keep vulnerable families hostage, truly vulnerable families hostage that actually do rely on these programs. And all of that, the unintended consequence is now America has woken up. And even their voters see that this is not okay. Significant reform has to happen. Our taxpayers deserve so much better.
Amazing. Amazing. The Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. Madam Secretary, thanks for giving that story to us, and thanks for watching our money, because nobody else in that damn town cares at all about it. So we appreciate you doing that for us. Thank you.